When the night is well past midnight and even the crickets fall silent, someone knocks on your door, gently but persistently. As you peek through the curtain, you see two children, drenched from the rain, pale faces and their eyes gone, just pure black from edge to edge. And they softly ask, "Can we come in? We won't take long." Satria had just moved into his late uncle's house 2 weeks ago. It was on the outskirts of Chibaru, far from the city's noise. The house was old but solid, surrounded by a small overgrown garden, with only 2 neighbors within a 100-meter radius. That night, a light rain fell. Clock showed 2:13 a.m. when Satria was awakened by knocking. Not loud, just tap, 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 slow and persistent, enough to stir anyone from sleep. Peeking through the living room window, he froze. 2 children stood on the front porch, one girl with long hair and a younger boy in a thin jacket, soaked to the bone, still not moving. Satria opened the door just a crack, enough to speak. "Sorry, who are you? Why are you out so late?" he asked. The girl answered without expression. "We just want to come in for a moment. Our parents haven't picked us up." Something was wrong. He looked closer and saw it. Their eyes. They weren't human eyes. No whites, no irises, just pure black, like bottomless holes. He slammed the door shut and locked every bolt. He didn't sleep the rest of the night. The lights flickered off by themselves. Water dripped from the faucet despite being shut tight. Footsteps echoed from the roof, though no trees were tall enough to reach it. Worst of all, he felt watched, constantly, even when he couldn't see anyone. The next day, he asked his neighbors, but no one had seen any children. In fact, the locals said no children had played in that area since the school bus accident 5 years ago. A rainy night, a bus fell into a ravine. 2 of the children who died were named Dina and Artie. Their age and appearance matched what Satria saw the night before. Since that night, Satria's life changed. He no longer measured night by sunset, but by when the knocking would begin. On the 4th night, they returned, 1:59 a.m. This time, not at the front door, but at the bedroom window. Tap, tap, tap. He approached slowly, holding his breath. The thin curtain swayed gently from the fan. Behind it, barely visible, a face. Not 2 children this time, just one. A boy, standing, staring in, still with those jet black eyes. But now, he was smiling, a smile that didn't belong on a child's face. Too wide, too unnatural. Satria stepped back. He reached for his phone and tried to take a picture, but the screen turned black. Camera error. Then the phone shut down completely, fully charged just minutes before. Outside the window, the boy began to knock again. Faster this time. Tap, 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 tap. And then he spoke, but not with his mouth. "We know you're alone. We know you regret. We know you want to talk to the dead. Let us in." Satria felt as if something unseen was pushing him to obey. He almost opened the window until a loud sound pierced the silence. A police siren in the distance. He turned back to the window. The child was gone. The next morning, he searched for answers. He returned to the back room of the house, dusty, abandoned. In an old drawer, he found a small box with letters. One of them belonged to his uncle. It shocked him. His uncle had written about black-eyed children knocking on his door. The letter read, "They only come to those who regret. They come to collect the ones who never said sorry." Satria began to wonder, who had he never apologized to? The following days, Satria could no longer sleep in peace. He covered every mirror in the house, draped each reflective surface in black cloth, not out of fear of ghosts, but because every time he saw his reflection, he saw things that didn't exist in the real world. The children appeared in the glass, silent, standing behind him, always with black eyes and smiles that seemed to know everything. But the most terrifying part, sometimes, he saw himself, a version of himself that looked thinner, paler, and with black eyes too. He started looking for explanations. At the village office, he found old reports about the school bus crash from 5 years ago. 2 names of the deceased stood out, Dina Wulandari and Arti Mahendra. But one detail froze his blood. In the extra passengers column, one name was crossed out, Satria Nugraha. He didn't remember being on that bus, but when he returned home and dug through old photos, he found something he couldn't explain, a school photo. In the back right corner, a boy sat sideways, wearing the same clothes as Arti. But what made Satria tremble, next to the boy half cut from the frame, was a child wearing the same watch Satria used to own as a kid. He felt trapped between 2 worlds. On the 5th night, the bathroom mirror shattered on its own. Shards scattered across the floor. Among the broken pieces, one shard still reflected not Satria's face, but the children's. They spoke together, their voices fused. Forgiveness is the door, but you're still locking it from inside. Satria finally understood this wasn't about fear. It was about a wound he'd buried so deep he'd forgotten it. But the children hadn't. They never did. After that night at Bukit Deret, the black-eyed children no longer appeared, not in mirrors, not in dreams, not in the corners of his eyes. But what came was not peace, at least not the kind he expected. It was silence. Satria returned to his mother's house in the village. The old house that once felt too cramped now felt spacious and quiet. He sat in the living room holding an old class photo. This time, he didn't avoid the children's gazes in the picture. He saw them. He remembered. His days were filled with silence, not out of fear, but as a form of respect. Like standing in front of a grave, not because there are no words, but because words aren't enough. One afternoon, a young boy knocked on his door. The boy smiled and said, "Mister, is this yours?" He held out a small blue watch, Satria's childhood watch, thought to be lost in the accident. Satria stared at it. On the back, tiny words were engraved, "For Arti, from Brother Satria." His hand shook. He never remembered giving it, but maybe he meant to. Maybe the universe was only now allowing that memory to return. That night, for the first time, he removed the cloths covering the mirrors. He stood before one and looked into his reflection, not to see if someone was behind him, but to finally face the person he had avoided for years. He saw himself with scars, with tears, with years he couldn't get back, but also with honesty that had long been buried. And then he smiled, and in the reflection behind him, just for a second, stood 2 small shadows, not frightening, not dark, just standing quietly, then fading away. From that night on, the village was no longer haunted by strange figures. But every year, on the anniversary of the crash, laughter echoed faintly near the hill. Light, free. And Satria? He stopped running. He stayed, became a school teacher, teaching children not just how to be smart, but how to be brave enough to be honest, even with themselves. Those who stay silent don't always lack a voice. Sometimes the quietest hold the loudest truths